This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 29th day of April in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley, and here's what we're tracking tonight. Police investigators in Berbice are probing the murder of a quarantine woman at the hands of her husband. The body of 53-year-old quarantine resident Wainumati Permal was this morning discovered in a shallow grave in her Kilcoy Chesney yard, 7 days after she went missing. The woman's husband, Avmanen Permal, has since been arrested for the murder and has reportedly confessed to the crime. The murdered woman was the mother of Guyanese cricketer Virstami Permal. It was the son who reported his mother missing to the authorities on Thursday, telling investigators that she has not been seen in days. Police investigators contacted the husband early this morning after receiving information about the woman's death. A search of the couple's yard uncovered a shallow grave, and the woman's body was discovered in that grave. In a report, the police said the husband confessed to the crime and provided details of the heinous act. He never reported his wife as missing and was reportedly seen in the past few days going about his daily routine as a laborer. He was immediately taken into custody this morning and is expected to face murder charges soon. News source understands that although the husband and wife were separated, they still lived in the same house, with the woman occupying the upper flat of the building while the man lived in the bottom flat. It is suspected that the woman was strangled to death. A post-mortem examination is to be carried out on the body. The investigations are ongoing tonight. More news when we return.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
The Ministry of Education is making a significant investment in the education system to distribute textbooks to every primary school pupil to support them at school and at home. So students and parents, please take good care of the textbooks loaned to you and remember to return them at the end of the school year so that the next batch of students can use them. Before collecting the textbooks, parents will sign a contract promising to ensure the books are kept in good condition and to return them. Parents will be required to pay the cost to replace or repair any of the lost or damaged books. So let's do the right thing and use the books wisely so that as many students can benefit across Guyana. A message from the Ministry of Education.
Live your fantasy at Fantasy Gaming Lounge. Win big daily. Millions in cash prizes every week. Now located at Giftland Mall, Fantasy Gaming Lounge, the best bet in town.
Flavor, food, fun, it's back! GMS's Uncapped Marketplace returns this month with the full support of GTT via MMG and Business Solutions. Come join us for the Agro Processors Exhibition and Food Festival. Enjoy a range of local products made, mixed and blended to perfection. Check out the food court, games and other exciting attractions. It's all happening on April 30 and May 1 from 10 hours at the Guyana National Stadium. Admission absolutely free.
In just 2 years, oil production earned Guyana a whopping $608 million. These funds are being used to build bridges, roads, and other infrastructure to improve the lives of all Guyanese.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
We've got exciting news!
news. All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100.
While police investigators have released the bodies to the families, they have asked them to bury and not cremate the bodies. However, both men were Hindus and the families prefer for the bodies to be cremated. The Guyana Police Force is currently awaiting the results from the samples sent overseas for additional tests so that the cause of death could be determined. A post-mortem examination done locally was inconclusive. In a statement this evening, the Ministry of Home Affairs said the white brick-like substance, which was found in a bottle in the back seat of the car, has been confirmed to be the very poisonous sodium cyanide. The Home Affairs Ministry said tests are now being done on samples removed from the stomachs of the two men to confirm that they did in fact ingest the sodium cyanide. Earlier this week, the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, met with the relatives of one of the young men who died and assured them that the results for those samples sent overseas will be back soon. The lifeless bodies of 34-year-old Justin Teixeira and 25-year-old Richie Hansraj were discovered early on Saturday morning in Teixeira's recently purchased Honda SUV, which was in the parking lot of the Marriott Hotel. Teixeira was a guest of the hotel. Hotel staff members went in search of him after receiving a call from a relative who explained that he had called them to complain that he was feeling unwell. Checks to his hotel room came up empty-handed, but his body, along with the body of his friend Richie Hansraj, was found moments later. The two were very close friends and traveled a lot together. The younger man was preparing to get engaged and married in May. Investigators said Teixeira's body was found in a laid-back position in the driver's seat of the car, while the body of Hansraj was found on the passenger side, kneeling on the ground onto the front passenger seat. Relatives are hoping for some closure as they prepare to bid their final goodbyes. The opposition is not taking kindly to statements made by Vice President Bara Jagdeo blaming the former APNU-AFC government for the current financial state of the National Insurance Scheme. Mr. Jagdeo told Barbicians during a visit earlier this week that the National Insurance Scheme is now in a bankrupt state, and that should be blamed on the former government because of its decision to lay off sugar workers. But opposition Member of Parliament Volda Lawrence responded last evening and said the Vice President needs to be truthful and ought to be reminded that it was under his tenure as President that the NIS was left in a cash-strapped position because of a number of bad and questionable investments.
It was VP Jagdeo who invested $2.5 billion of NIS monies in ordinary shares in the Berbice River Bridge. He further invested another $810 million from the NIS resources into this bridge in order to cover the non-performing assets in this entity. By his actions, this caused the resources of NIS to be further depleted. One must also not forget the CLICO fiasco, again, involving VP Jagdeo and the NIS funds, whereby some $5+ billion was invested. And we all know the fiasco of CLICO, which was placed under judicial management in 2009 and subsequently was liquidated in September 2010.
Ms. Lawrence also explained that despite the advice from the Board of Directors of the NIS at the time, including from Guyanese with experience in financing and investment, Mr. Jagdeo proceeded to invest the members' money in the Berbice River Bridge, the CLICO Insurance Scheme, and Leparkin, among other projects which dented finances of the insurance scheme.
What VP Jagdeo should be advising the President and Cabinet on is the provision in the Financial Institution Act of 1995 on how to treat with NIS under Section 3 of the Cooperative Financial Institutions Act. Let me inform the public at large that a coalition government would seek to utilize monies from the Natural Resources Fund by providing an annual subvention to NIS of approximately $15 million, which is just about 1% of the present amount in the fund, in order to wipe out this deficit caused by VP Jagdio's administration in the first place.
During his meeting in Berbice, the vice president told a pensioner who was questioning why he has not seen an increase in the NIS pension over the past 2 years that the NIS is bankrupt and will be focusing on maintaining current payments and not offering any increase in pension payments at this time. And facing a backlash over his claims that the NIS is bankrupt because of laying off of sugar workers under the former government, Vice President Bharat Jagdeo today sought to clarify his statement. The APNU-AFC opposition has reminded Jagdeo that it was under his government and under his watch as president that money from the NIS was used to invest in various projects, including the Berbice River Bridge and the Clico Company. At a press conference this afternoon, Mr. Jagdeo defended using money from the NIS to invest in the Berbice Bridge.
So this is the reality of the NIS investment. It was one of the best investments for the NIS. That is what they've returned. So to say that the bridge somehow caused this problem with the NIS, it's a fallacy.
According to Mr. Jagdeo, the aim is to ensure that the NIS has returned to profitability. But in the meantime, ensuring its sustainability is what is important. He admitted, however, that the NIS financial woes started before the coalition took office in 2015. But he maintains that the state of the entity's finances deteriorated under the coalition.
So we have here the accounts for the National Insurance Scheme. In 2015, it had an operating surplus of $968 million. In 2016, $161 million. That is an operating surplus. So it still had more money. In 2017, $175 million in deficit. In 2018, $1.6 billion in deficit. In 2019, $1 billion in deficit. In 2020, $1.7 billion in deficit. So this is what has happened. You see, it has moved from an operating surplus into now a huge operating deficit.
Vice President Jagdeo said whereas the laws stipulate an increase in benefits and payments from the NIS, those obligations will be honored. But at this time, such a commitment to increase benefits cannot be made by the government. In a move that is expected to give major relief to persons involved in construction, Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh today announced the removal of the value-added tax on cement. The decision took effect from today. In a statement, the Ministry of Finance said the decision to remove VAT from cement reflects recognition of the importance of the commodity as a key input for the construction of residential dwellings as well as commercial buildings, and in line with government's vision for providing relief to citizens as well as to support the housing drive. The measure is expected to provide substantial support to the local economy, the ministry said. The government said its expectation is that the removal of the value-added tax from cement will be passed on to final consumers through appropriate adjustments in the final price charge. The price for cement and other building materials have been climbing steadily over the past year. Let's tell you now that Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan has recused herself from presiding over the case currently before the court against former Finance Minister Winston Jordan, who is facing a charge of misconduct in public office, which is related to the sale of a property by the former government to the BK Company. The Chief Magistrate announced at a hearing this morning that she has made a decision to remove herself from the matter to allay any concerns of bias. It was explained that one of Mr. Jordan's new attorneys, Don Holderkush, is a former magistrate who is known to the Chief Magistrate. The matter will now have to be transferred to another court. The charge against Mr. Jordan is in relation to the sale of wharf facilities to the BK Marine Company under the former APNU-AFC government. as the then Finance Minister, Jordan was required to sign the vesting order for the sale, which actually started and had an agreement reached under the previous PPP civic government. Jordan has always declared his innocence and has accused the current government of coming up with a trumped-up charge against him in an effort to silence his criticism of the government's handling of the economy since it took office. The charge accuses the former finance minister of willfully misconducting himself by acting recklessly when he signed the transfer of property order for the government holding company NISIL on behalf of the government over the sale of the property. The government has been claiming that the property was undervalued in its sale. The government has already started proceedings in the High Court in an effort to reclaim the property, but the case is still ongoing. Senior counsel and opposition member of Parliament Royce Ford, who is among the attorneys representing Mr. Jordan, recently said that Jordan was never the minister with responsibility for NISIL, and as the finance minister, it was his job to sign off on vesting orders from the cabinet. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Sol Guyana Inc. Mobil Special and all other Mobil lubricants are distributed by Sol Guyana Inc.
In addition to 2% royalty, did you know that Guyana earns 50% of the profits from oil production? More than any one of the Stabroek Block co-venturers, ExxonMobil, Hess and Sinnock. And by 2026, the government is expected to export 50 million barrels of oil per year, which can earn as much as $4 billion.
Tell it to your enemy and tell it to your friend. Watch Guyanese girl, them a hurtle, and them a do it in a circle. Watch me, missing each and every year. Flashback come again. Tell it to your enemy and tell it to your friend. Well, if you're ready for the party, yeah then. Flashback, tell them a the trend. Follow me sing. This are not talking about a fly nor no beast. No girl can whine like Guyanese. Watch the girl, them a do it in a circle. Guyanese girls, them a dance in a circle. Hear me and say, you know me go banter, you know I sound boy killer, I represent the Golden Smile family, you know say a flashback, old school party. You know say, oh, the vibes is plenty. Slow down.
Live your fantasy at Fantasy Gaming Lounge. Win big daily. Millions in cash prizes every week. Now located at Giftland Mall, Fantasy Gaming Lounge, the best bet in town.
The Ministry of Education is making a significant investment in the education system to distribute textbooks to every primary school pupil to support them at school and at home. So students and parents, please take good care of the textbooks loaned to you and remember to return them at the end of the school year so that the next batch of students can use them. Before collecting the textbooks, parents will sign a contract promising to ensure the books are kept in good condition and to return them. Parents will be required to pay the cost to replace or repair any of the lost or damaged books. So let's do the right thing and use the books wisely so that as many students can benefit across Guyana. A message from the Ministry of Education.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100. Fuel it up and drive, super 95 to the. Fuel it up and drive, super 95 to the. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Oil Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Oil's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across across the region tonight, the Premier of the British Virgin Islands appeared in a Miami courtroom today after being accused of money laundering and conspiring to import cocaine in a case that has embarrassed the British Overseas Territory. The 51-year-old Andrew Foy was arrested at the Miami airport along with the managing director of the territory's Ports Authority, Olivine Maynard, according to a complaint by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. The hearing coincided with the release on Friday of a report commissioned by Queen Elizabeth's representative in the territory, which concluded that its constitution and elected government should be suspended due to concerns about dishonest governance. Foy and Maynard, dressed in what appeared to be prison uniforms, appeared via Zoom in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. The judge in the case scheduled a pretrial detention hearing for Wednesday and the preliminary hearing for the 13th of May. According to the complaint, the DA informant claimed in meetings with Foy, Maynard, and her son Kadeem Maynard to be a cartel member looking to move thousands of kilograms of Colombian cocaine through the territory's Tortola Island and eventually to the U.S. The two were arrested yesterday during a visit to an airport in Miami, where they were told they would see the money that they would have been paid. Commonwealth Secretary General Baroness Patricia Scotland wants Jamaica's Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, to withdraw her bid for the post. Scotland made a call in an interview with ABS-TV in Antigua. She said she would be incredibly pleased, as one can imagine, if Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith thought again and felt maybe that this wasn't the appropriate time to challenge a fellow Commonwealth and Caribbean person for the position. Jamaica announced Johnson-Smith's candidature for the Secretary General post earlier this month. In its statement, the government of Jamaica said it has every confidence in Minister Johnson-Smith's abilities to build bridges and consensus, bringing governments and peoples to a common understanding. Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown criticized Jamaica's move, labeling it a monumental error and saying it risks dividing the regional group that gave overwhelming support for Scotland to get a second term. The current rotation of the top post is for the Caribbean. Scotland's leadership has been under the microscope since it was revealed that she has circumvented the customary competitive tendering requirement by awarding a lucrative consultancy contract to a friend's company. It was also revealed that procurement rules had been waived in more than 50 instances by the Secretariat over 3 years, resulting in the suspension of discretionary funding from the British, New Zealand, and Australian governments until it got its financial procedures in order. The three governments are reportedly not in favor of a second term for Scotland, whose 4-year stint ended in March of 2020, but was extended because of the coronavirus pandemic. She has denied all of the allegations against her. And finally tonight, international news. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said his country does not consider itself to be at war with NATO, according to state news agency RIA. He says such a development would increase the risk of nuclear war, which cannot be allowed. Lavrov has also said Russia is not threatening anyone with nuclear war, but accuses Western nations of doing so. The foreign minister blames stalled peace talks with Ukraine on what he calls Kyiv's desire to constantly play games. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.